I'm very happy to have you here. You've helped me so much. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
I have to ask you how old you are. Are you willing to answer that question?
Yes,
Good.
I'm 50.
50, what a neat number.
Yes, it's great. And so a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today applies to me as well.
Yes, that's the thing. My podcast is called Learning How to Be Old, but it starts young. I think Aristotle said that, but everybody knows that. So I met you professionally when I had two problems. Well, I've got a lot more problems than that, but you were two that are relevant to you. One was vertigo and one was a sort of woozy kind of unpredictable balance problem that had been creeping up. So I want you to tell people about your job, what you actually do, because there's not a lot of you around.
Yeah, so I'm a neurological and vestibular physiotherapist.
Say that twice because they're very long words.
So neurological meaning I work with people with neurological conditions such as Parkinson's, stroke, concussion. And I also work with people who have dizziness, balance issues, vertigo, and often those symptoms are caused because of something going on in a vestibular system.
Vestibular is a lovely sounding word, but what does it mean?
So your vestibular system is your balance organ in your inner ear. It's incredibly designed, and most of us have no idea about it until something goes wrong.
So is it this vestibular system that causes both these problems sometimes?
Well, for you, yes, it was. Yeah. Yes.
But there's other stuff involved too, isn't there? It's quite complicated. Yeah. But the vertigo turned out to be pretty straightforward, even though it was the most alarming. And it's common, I know, when everything's going round and round and you just have to lie down, and some people have to vomit, but it's not nice at all. But that was a very mechanical, very subtle but mechanical cure, it looked like it from my point of view. Tell me what it was really.
So, I mean, yes, vertigo makes people feel terrible, and it can be very, very frightening. And in your case, you had something called benign proximal positional vertigo.
Oh, God.
So quite a mouthful.
Yes.
Benign meaning not serious.
Yeah.
No. Proximal meaning symptoms come and go. It's positional, meaning it's related to where your head is positioned. And vertigo is a symptom of either, or perception of either the world is spinning or you're spinning. So we shorten it and we say BPPV.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might have heard that phrase.
Yes.
And probably thought they were the only person in the world who'd ever had it. Yes. And then they find that half their families had it too.
Yes, and a lot of their friends.
Yes. Yes.
So it's a case of you have crystals that sit on your utricle, which is your gravity centre in your vestibular system. And they can fall off, and that is often just a process of ageing. Often happens at night time, so people will tell me that the symptoms started when they woke up and got out of bed the following morning, and they fall off the utricle and into one of the semicircular canals, and they get temporarily stuck there.
So how can I picture that, all that, those tubes and crystals and sort of places where they can fall off, it's all inside, sort of beyond where you could put your fingers in your ear, right?
Beyond.
Beyond the hearing bit.
Yes.
Aha. Yes. Right. Awfully close to the brain.
Yes. Yes. So I guess in line behind your eyes and in line with your ears.
Oh, I see.
And it's the size of your thumbnail. So we're talking about canals that are only 1 millimetre wide. So the crystals are microscopic, and yet they cause people such terrible symptoms.
Yes. But you laid me down and you turned me this way and you turned me that way, and it just worked, you know. A couple of weeks later I was fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we worked out in the clinic which canal was affected, and then did the treatment for BPPV is a repositioning manoeuvre where we move your head in a certain way so as to tip the crystals out of the canal.
So amazing. Yeah. Well, that was a great relief. You helped me with that very quickly. And you did say, well, we'll deal with the BPPV first and then we'll get on to the balance. And am I likely to get more now that as I get older?
So the recurrence rate for BPPV is actually quite high. So 50% of people will get another episode within 2 years. But also BPPV is really common in older adults.
Yes.
10% of people over the age of 65 will develop BPPV. It happens in younger people too, but it's a lot more common as we age.
Yes, so it's very common. Might get a few more episodes before I die, but there's a way to fix it if I go to the right person. It's pretty hard to do on my own.
Yes, it can be.
And then you get on to the stuff that's been bothering me for years on and off. The balance, which I think is kind of more mysterious. I know it's common, but I just feel like I never knew quite how to talk about it. So if I mentioned it, it just doesn't seem real to people. I didn't seem to have the language, and yet, because I look like a perfectly normal person, slightly drunk sometimes, sort of wandering around the footpath. Again, not life-threatening, but it is in a way because it affects you how you fall over. I thought it sort of changed a bit how I am, just, I don't know, it just felt different. And I don't know, I couldn't figure out why I would get this. Well, it's obvious I'm old, but I do the core and mobility classes, and actually all the classes, Pilates, pump, at least at our gym, they all include elements for improving your balance, but still it just seemed to get worse. Even I do Tai Chi, I do dancing, I do everything I could, but I wasn't even maintaining my balance, let alone getting any better. And I think that's probably quite common. I know if I hadn't been doing those exercises, I would have been a lot worse, a lot earlier. I think that's exactly what I should have been doing. But it just got a bit beyond me, and that's why I came to you. So why do older people lose their balance?
So we lose our balance for so many different reasons as we age, and it's really, really common. And it can happen quite slowly and kind of almost creep up undetected until the point where you think you experience, like you're saying, that something's not quite right, but it's hard to articulate what's not quite right when you are so active. And it can happen, people might feel that perhaps they feel a little bit unsteady or more unsteady when they're walking and turning their head. So without even realising, they just slowly stop turning their head as quickly or as much, or stop turning their head at all, and they just turn their body to be able to look, for example, when they cross the road. Or it might be someone feels just like they don't have quite enough balance when they are standing to put on their trousers. So they'll sit to put on their trousers. So we start to change the way that we move and that we do life, and then that has ongoing implications for our balance as time goes on.
Yeah, so we think we're helping by modifying what we're doing and not challenging ourselves. But in fact, in some ways, that's making it worse. That's a big idea to get your head around, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Because we often think that if we feel wobbly or off balance, we should stop doing that.
Yeah.
And yet balance needs to be challenged to keep it. But there's lots of reasons why we lose our balance as we age. Our vision can reduce.
Well, yes, I'm out in the pitch dark and everyone else can see where the footpath ends, but I can't. Yes.
Yeah. And vision's really important for that depth perception, so seeing the curb. And our spatial awareness.
Yes.
Hearing's really important.
Why?
So it helps us to place ourselves in space. So we have that auditory perception.
Like a bat.
So when our hearing is reduced, especially if it's unilateral hearing impairment, then it can be quite hard to, or more that our brain has to do more to be able to know where we are in space. So it increases that cognitive load. Now, if your brain's having to do more to work out where you are in space. It's having to do more to help maintain your balance, and you're trying to do something else with maybe you're rushing to something, maybe you are planning your shopping list while walking. It means your brain hasn't got as much capacity to be able to help maintain your balance.
Yes, now really until I met you, I thought the solution was to try and do one thing at a time only, ever. And the whole business of mindfulness is wonderful for old people. It's very precious. But the opposite is true, very much so. That
Yeah, so I guess it depends at which point.
you can't just do it all the time. Either one of those.
That's right, and it depends on where on the spectrum or how bad your balance is.
Yes.
So if you're someone who has quite poor balance, then working on exercises that we are just doing one thing at a time, or just life where you're doing. So when you're walking, you try not to do other things. That's important. However, the idea is that we work on your balance in such a way that you can be doing two things at once.
Yeah, because the exercises I did, you gave me this long list of exercises and I did them religiously. They started by doing very much one thing at once, but my balance improved greatly. Yeah. I jumped up. And then after that you said, challenge your balance, do two things at once. So it's a continuum, isn't it? It's just not just doing one thing forever. Yeah.
That's right. And I mean, you did your homework.
I did.
And you did it very well. And that's why your balance improves so much. Yeah.
Because not everybody does? Don't tell me. Surely not. Oh, that could not be true.
No, but the good news is that I'm yet to meet someone who I haven't been able to improve their balance. As long as they do their homework, it doesn't matter where on the spectrum they are, whether their balance is, a little bit off like yours was, or they're really unsteady and at high risk of falls. I can always move them along that spectrum to be able to improve their balance. But the key thing is they have to do their homework.
Yes, and you've had a lot of experience, haven't you? I mean, you're not saying that off the top of your head. I know it's true. And it's astonished me because I do think lots and lots and lots of people, when this starts to happen, and as you say, it's a bit fuzzy, they're not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what's going on. And eventually you just do what you can. You don't know there's such a person as Vicki and other vestibular and neurological physiotherapists. And you think it's just a given. But in fact, it's something that can be improved. It's made a big difference to me. Not to say that it's not patchy, if I'm tired or something, it's different. But I notice there are certain things I can do now that I couldn't do before, like walk down the steps in the Embassy Theatre without holding on to the seats as I go down.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So I think your message is very, very important to people to know there's hope. You have to do your homework. Just keep at it because it does make such a difference. Yeah. If we keep shrinking what we're doing, then that we exercise less and our muscles deteriorate more, and then we're more likely to fall over. It's a kind of a vicious circle, and we can jump out of it.
Yes, we can. And there are other things too that impact that people don't think about in terms of balance. For example, pain. Lots of older adults live with pain, and many people, so common, that people will say to me, I don't want to take the analgesia or the pain relief. I'm already on lots of medications. But if people manage their pain, then they can do more and be more physically active. And that's really key to maintaining your balance.
Do you get frustrated when people say that? Do you stamp your foot and shout at them?
No.
Does the inner Vicki do that?
But perhaps the inner Vicki does that. But the outer Vicki just keeps encouraging, and it might be multiple conversations, just encouraging that. Yeah. Shall we try taking paracetamol more regularly, that as your doctor's prescribed, over the next couple of weeks, and see if we can get you a little bit more physically active so that you can do your balance exercises so that you can move more, because moving and exercise is key.
Yes, yes.
And it's key because when you're trying to maintain your functional independence, most people tell me they want to stay home and they want to age in their home environment. And I'm passionate about helping support people do that.
Yes. I think the thing with pain is there's an old idea that it's a moral thing. It's a character flaw to take medication for pain. It shows you're weak. And we know now that pain is, I don't know, haven't got the words for it, but closely associated with inflammation. And inflammation is not a character flaw.
No, not at all.
And in fact, it's something we need to get rid of as we can. Yeah. So it is a big jump. I feel it myself. But
and pain will change the way we move.
Yeah.
Just like neurological conditions or orthopedic conditions that people have might change our posture, the way our muscles work. They directly affect our balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one thing we haven't touched on yet is the fact that our vestibular system ages as we age. So we lose hair cells within our vestibular system as we get older. And so our vestibular system is really key to one of the key ways and contributors to our balance.
Yes, and one key thing you said to me, which changed everything in a way, not that I was reluctant to do exercise or anything, I certainly wasn't, but the thing that drove it home how important it was, you said you have to do those exercises a lot because we're training your brain. So when those cells deteriorate and die, you can't make them revive, but you can help the brain to interpret the signals it is getting in a helpful way. And so I got that and I did my homework.
You did indeed. Yeah. And we can, some of the exercises that we know about, they use a lot of vision.
Yes.
We rely on our vision to do those exercises. So, for example, if we're standing on one leg or standing in tandem with one foot in front of the other, we're often doing that with our eyes open. So we're using vision to help us to balance, which is good.
Yes.
But a lot of the exercise that we're doing, so for example, all the exercise you're doing in your different groups, you're doing them often with your eyes open and perhaps not challenging your vestibular system as much.
I like doing the exercises with my eyes shut, and there's a bit of Oriental Parade where I'm going to the gym that's nice and flat and wide, and if there's nobody there I'll walk along there with my eyes shut. It's good fun.
But we don't necessarily recommend that for everyone, do we?
No.
We want to make sure that people are safe while challenging their balance.
Don't listen to me.
So I often will say to people, when you're doing your balance exercises, you have to challenge your balance. So you have to expect to be a little bit wobbly when you're doing it. You obviously have to do that in a safe way, so you might stand next to the kitchen bench in case you wobble so much you need to put your hand out. But if you're standing still and your balance exercises are easy, you're not challenging your balance enough to improve it.
So a sign of wobbling is actually a sign that you're doing good work.
Yes.
Yeah, training yourself.
That's right.
Yeah. And it starts young. I mean, you were talking about your 12-hour hike that you love and how you have to do more exercise now to strengthen yourself to do these. Why would you want to do a 12-hour hike? I know, really. Go on.
Yes, so, even at the age of 50, and we know more now, perhaps, as we go through these perimenopausal and menopausal years, that we, as women, we have to do more strengthening exercises to maintain our muscle strength. And this is going to be important so that when I get to 85, I've maintained some of that strength.
Yes.
But it's never too late to start.
No, it's just not. It is not.
Strengthening is really important.
Yeah.
Yep. Being able to, for example, stand up without using your hands is a sign that you're maintaining the muscle strength in your legs. If you're needing to use your hands, it's a sign that you need to be doing more strengthening work.
Yes, it all wraps up together, doesn't it?
And it helps to maintain our independence and it helps us to do the things that we love.
Exactly, yeah. Life is more fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can move. Thanks, Vicki. There we go. Well, I think that's been a terrific talk, Vicki. Of course, you've recharged me, which is good, but our listeners, I think, will find some of that brand new and quite exciting information. I was very, very thrilled when I found you. And you helped me. You helped me to help myself, which is good. And I know where to go if it gets bad again. So thank you so much for coming along. I know you're doing lots of talks around the place and that people are flocking to them. So I know there's a kind of a hunger for this information. Yeah.
Because it's good to get onto these things early, isn't it? And know that if we maximise our vision and our hearing, we build up our strength, we challenge our balance. Yeah. And it's good for people to know about that Live Stronger for Longer website, which gives lots of resources on how to improve your balance, how to maintain your strength, how to age well physically, and points you to local exercise classes.
That's a great website, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Here endeth my conversation with Vicki Thirkell, the physio who specialises in problems of vertigo and balance. Now, I'm finding it very interesting how many times this question of balance pops up when we talk about ageing. Oh, and in everyday life, of course, please check your balance on the bus, on the train, in the bank, wherever. Or about money. And it's never about staying perfectly still. I mean, that's how we can keep our balance, by lying in bed all day. That's not a very good idea. But all sorts of experts seem to recommend that we challenge our balance, we push ourselves, we test our balance. Because it's not just our bodies that wobble now and then. It might be our resolve, our plan, sometimes our self, our sense of self. There's Jo Randerson. Remember, she was in my episode about creative aging. She says that getting the wobbles, it's not a sign of failure. It's actually a condition of growth. Who knew? Yeah. Fancy that. Now, anyway, watch this space. I've got the feeling that it might be popping up again, this question of balance. And if you like this podcast, I would love you to subscribe or follow. Just hit that button. Doesn't hurt. You know why? Because it encourages me. Because it's pretty weird, slaving away here in my office all alone is weird. I love to know that you're listening or maybe even watching on podcasts these days. Bye for now. I meant on YouTube.